In addition to like uh, parts of the American South, you traveled a lot to, like you've been to Russia like 3 times, was
Yeah.
it? Yeah. During which years?
1990, 1991, and 1993.
Is that the Russia that's being depicted in A Wedding Song for Poorer People?
Yeah. The year I was thinking was 1993, that summer.
So there's a lot of like kind of spying and, stuff breaking down, trains breaking down, theaters being kind of, the actors are gangsters and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there some stories that, you're right already with that particular location in mind, where the location is almost part of the...
The first time I went to Russia, I was noticing that people were selling things on the black market, but it was innocent. There were the little nested dolls and the insignias of the military and things like that. And young guys were selling and trading, stuff like that. And the tourists loved it, and everybody. It was technically illegal, but everybody was turning, sort of a blind eye to it. But then I thought, there's some. It was kind of cute in a way. By the time I went back in 1991 and then again 1993, it was no longer cute. It was really deeply sinister. And bodies were appearing all over town. People were getting murdered. Some of them were political people who would either be pushed off the metro tracks or attacked with a billy club or whatever that is, because they were members of the opposition, whatever the opposition was. I mean, nobody really knew what the government was, because it was the old communist order was sort of broken down, and there was this new mafia, and who was who? Nobody knew who anybody was anymore. Mm-hmm. So I got to thinking, but there was some kind of energy about that black market thing that made me think of Bertolt Brecht, and especially the Threepenny Opera, which is delightful because it's the sort of underworld, the criminal world, but there's an enormous amount of resilience and rejuvenation in it.
Can you explain a bit about the Threepenny Opera? Is this basically like a very, inexpensive opera that anybody can attend?
Well, it was based on what was called the Beggar's Opera.
Right.
And then Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill rewrote it in 1926, and with the Mac the Knife, the song Mac the Knife,
yeah.
Da, 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 da. That comes from that. That's Kurt Weill, and Pirate Jenny, that I think a number of people sang. But it's about sort of the upsurge in the criminal element, and the whole world gets turned on its head, and they become the heroes, in a sense. Mm-hmm. They become the redeemers, but not in the way that the bourgeois audience would have thought. It's really quite surprising. And it's essentially a comic opera. Mm-hmm. So I thought, what would it look like to stage Threepenny Opera in Leningrad in 1993? And since I don't have the means to do that, to gather all the actors and to, I'll just write it. I'll just make it up.
Mm-hmm. And, like Molly, the person who's putting on this play, is like incredibly devoted to this, but she's, goes to Russia, and she can see that, from my perspective, from the reader's perspective, stuff is falling apart. Do you think that people who work in these fields, like, they can kind of tell when the project is doomed, but they'll just do it anyway because of love?
Well, I almost hesitate to say this, but I want to say almost in particular the theater.
Okay.
There's something doomed about the theater from beginning.
Even if it's a glorious script, and even if it's like,
And maybe so, and maybe it's a glorious script and the best actors in the world, and the thing could flop for weird reasons. The people of greater faith don't exist than people in the theater.
Wow.
I really believe that. They are the true religious.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And how did you get in touch with people in theaters, or like in previous stories you're writing about clowns and performance artists in general? Like, just, how do you come across them? Like, do you research them? Like, do you?
Oh, I just hang around. I talk to anyone. I talk to everyone. So, and for a time I was when I lived in Cambridge, England, and worked in a bookstore, I used to go to a pub that was right behind the Arts Theatre Cambridge, and it actually had a door to backstage, so people could come in for a quick drink before they made their entrance. Yeah.
That was so helpful.
I got to know a lot of people that way, as they were before their entrance and stuff. And a lot of the carpenters were there as well. And then for a time, I worked in publicity at the Old Vic in London. I was between jobs, and they needed help, and so they just kind of paid me out of petty cash. And
so you got to see kind of the backstage.
Oh yeah, oh my. And it was a talk about great actors and actresses. I mean, at that time it was Prospect Theatre Company, and they were the largest touring company in Britain, I think. And they had Derek Jacobi and Barbara Jefford and Timothy West, and all of them were in their repertory company. I mean, this was like the best. Mm-hmm. They were just the best. And it was falling apart. It was kind of falling, who knows what happened. I mean, the economics of it, and then Margaret Thatcher came in, and then who knows what happened, and then this happened and that happened. And